We're ready to begin this program, and I'm going to welcome back Holly to the podium so that Holly can introduce our speaker. Thank you.
I can't. Is this on? Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
No, not in the back. I have to get it. Now is it okay? All right.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. So thank you all for coming to the program today. See about digital design. All right. Digital design innovation. And I want to introduce our speaker. We're going to do kind of a Q&A back and forth, maybe show some sites and things as we're talking. So we also may ask some questions of you as well. But I want to just do a brief introduction before we get started. So Nikki Zeichner is a lawyer and a graduate of the NYU Engineering School's Integrated Design Media Program, Digital Media Program, excuse me. And she worked as a criminal defense attorney in New York City. And after that, joined Code for America, and actually now is with 18F, and she'll definitely talk about all of those as we go through the program today. Most recently, with Code for America, she was a part of a 3-person team working on tools to improve relations between the community and the police in Vallejo, allowing her to bring her creative talents and legal skills together in a unique and exciting way. And now with 18F, that's a federal group, a team of technologists, designers, and researchers that are working on the federal government and enabling agencies to deploy tools and services that are easy to operate, cost efficient, and reusable. And don't we all love to hear about that from the federal government? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker, and we'll kind of go through our Q&A today. But please welcome Nikki Zeichner.
Hi, this is working, yeah?
So we're going to kind of start out, and I just wanted to ask Nikki to kind of share a bit about her background, and specifically to this program, how kind of law, technology, and design all came together for you in your career.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I don't even really know where to begin. But I guess what I'll say is that I went to CUNY, City University of New York's law school, which is a pretty unique program. It's a public interest institution. The tagline is law in the service of human needs. So it's very focused on clinical work. And I always knew that I was going to do public interest related work. So when I graduated from law school, I ended up working on behalf of low-income clients and learned how difficult that was, not only because of the work, but because the institutions suck, right? Like there's so many obstacles and there's so many challenges just with going to court and dealing with everything, as many of you I'm sure know. So that's kind of how I started thinking about maybe making contributions that were more systemic rather than client-centered. And my initial entry into playing with technology was more of a creative one. I was working on criminal defense projects or cases in New York, and I just needed an outlet, so I tried to do storytelling projects, and I used technology to do that because I didn't have any resources to do anything else. I played around with web design and eventually ended up having a lot of fun with it and realizing that there was opportunity to do more. And I ran into a friend of mine who directed the program at NYU that I went to. So I just ran into him on the street. He said, we have funding for women. We can start expanding storytelling projects on criminal justice stuff. Let's do this. So I just went there. And then I started learning about civic technology and how there's a lot of movement to change the systems that are in place. Governments are really trying to transition out of having online tools that are kind of like function as brochures or presentations of organizational structures and making them into what they say. Does everybody here understand what responsive means? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so making their websites responsive, making it possible for individuals to actually get things done online, maybe on their cell phones, right? And that's a huge transition that's happening right now. So I ended up kind of falling into this place and being able to work in this space, which is really exciting.
And that's probably talk about your first project, right? The parole hearings data project was kind of the first thing that you started working on.
Yeah, so when I was in school, I was actually representing somebody who's in front of the parole board in New York. And so I just happened to know where all the information about parole hearings was kept on the parole board's website, because when you represent incarcerated people, it's really hard to communicate with them. They're not, they're just not there, you know, like you can't just talk to them when you want. So you go online to find out like when's their next hearing, or you know what's going on with them. So I just happened to know where these resources were, and then I ended up taking a course on building civic technologies. And I thought, oh, well, I deal with this information all the time, and it's poorly designed. What if I could just pull all the data, all the parole hearing cases, and just have it in one place, and people can maybe do research that is super cumbersome to do currently. So that was my entry into this, and I thought it was going to be really hard, because it was like the parole board's website has an interview schedule, and it's like you have to click on the letter of the last name of the individual, and then you have to click on the month of the, you know, the hearing and the year, and it just seems so laborious. And I thought, oh, pulling this data and putting it in one place would be really, really hard. And then I talked to people who do this type of thing and realized that it was like really no big deal at all for them. So that was a revelation. You know, you just kind of write scripting codes that just say pull it from this place and this place and this place, and that's kind of it. So that was really, really wonderful to learn. And then, you know, I'll be honest, I don't think the thing that I built is really particularly useful. It's a good idea, you know, but I think it needs a lot more work. But it was kind of like a start of thinking about, yeah, oftentimes there is information that's available, as many of you know, I'm sure even better than I do. There's information that you know is available, but it's just not usable. You know, it's just not put in a way that you can easily put it together and really take a look at it. So so that was kind of the goal with that project. Yeah.
And then, of course, then you decided to come out here to work for Code for America, and I think we'd all love to hear about the project in Vallejo, since it's kind of, you know, it's in our backyard and near and dear to many of our hearts, because it's the Bay Area.
Yeah. Does anyone here live in Vallejo? No. I know there's one person from Benicia. Are there any other folks from Benicia or nearby Vallejo? No? Okay, good. So I can be candid. Vallejo is an amazing place, and I really, really loved working there. What we were tasked to do was to find ways to help the city use technology to increase trust between community and police. And that's like it's a huge, daunting task to do. And we really didn't have more direction than that, you know? So we started doing a lot of research in the field, really just talking with people, trying to really connect with as many community-based organizations as we could to tap into as many different segments of the city as we could, and try to figure out what people wanted. And so we ended up like developing a few ideas about that. We thought about if we could make the police department more efficient in responding to residents, that would be something that would bring them value. We thought about making information more accessible, because I don't know how many people know much about Vallejo, but their resources are extremely limited. They're post-bankruptcy, and they had at one point, for a population of around 125,000 people, they had 70 police officers. So the resources are just very, very thin. So providing information has just not been a priority for them with all the things that they have to take care of. So we thought, can we make information more accessible to residents? And then we also knew that they were very excited about this neighborhood watch movement that's been growing in the city dramatically. And they wanted to figure out if there were ways to support those groups and create new ways for folks to get involved with discussing issues that were going on in their neighborhoods, perhaps through online ways to report and new ways to increase the possibility of people getting involved in that way. And we ended up focusing on the last, and I'll be honest with you, that is definitely due to politics. Like we really ended up having a few doors close along the way as we developed different projects. And that was a disappointing part of that year. But what we ended up being able to do was build a tool that enables people to report neighborhood issues to a particular department within the police that handles non-emergency matters. And that seemed to be something that people were wanting to do. And what we did was we made it bilingual so that Spanish speakers could take advantage of this and receive services that I don't believe they were getting before, because there just were not options for Spanish speakers to engage in that way with the police department. And then we also enabled it through the web, through text messaging, and then through voicemail, so that there were just easier new ways for people to start talking about non-emergency matters in their neighborhood. But I'll say, that was a compromise. There were a lot of things that we wanted to do that we just were not able to pursue in the long run. So.
And then now, of course, you have gone on to work with 18F, so you've gone from the local communities now more to the federal side. And I was, looking at kind of some of the projects that they have coming up, and this may be of interest again to a lot of people in the room. There was one about FOIA modernization, right, where it said they're trying to create a new tool to search for the correct agency or office to make a FOIA request. And I think a lot of us have done that, but we know where to go sometimes we don't. But if we don't even know, then how would some members of the public know? So I'm kind of curious, what got you interested in that, or how that all came about, and maybe what you're going to be working on, or what you kind of see going forward with them.
Yeah, so I'm starting with them on the 4th, so I haven't begun yet. But so I guess it's kind of like with FOIA even, I think all these projects, and this was referenced a little bit in the beginning, like the longer you do this work, it's kind of like the less confidence you have. I feel like I'm just kind of like learning what the problems are, like the more work that I do. So working at the city level was, really helpful in identifying a lot of the problems that are consistent throughout different levels in government. I think one of the things at 18F that I'm pretty excited about is the people are really amazing, but also I think, so one thing that I've found is really important, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what you guys do too, because I think that there are many parallels. We're at this moment where things are changing a lot. A lot of the systems that govern, that are in government, that are in law, information management, it's all changing. There are these expectations of having things work in ways that just are not set in place yet. So a lot of what I have to do is kind of promote culture change, and I imagine that's a lot of what many of you do. And so, thinking about what is successful, or what the challenges are and how that could be smoother. And something that I just feel all the time is setting up a good infrastructure in the beginning, setting up essentially contracts, right? Of these are the rights and responsibilities of everyone. This is what you can expect from me. This is what I expect from you. And this is what I need you to do in order to, for us to be able to move forward and do something really wonderful. And I feel like 18F understands that really well. So I'm excited about that in particular, because, when you try to enter into projects and you base them on an expectation that there will be goodwill, it's just precarious, So I think being really clear in the beginning about okay, we're going to embark on changing things. This is what you can anticipate is going to be really uncomfortable for you. And you have to know this is going to be uncomfortable, and things are going to maybe fall apart a little bit. And you have to know that that's part of the process of getting better, or getting to the next place, and kind of going through that really structured place in the beginning so that you can hold on and take somebody through a journey that's going to have a lot of bumps, if that makes sense. Does that resonate with any of you, with the work that you're doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have particular methods in place when you think about is that an ever a structured thing? Because I feel like it's rare actually for people to go in and say, okay, you're going to have this responsibility to change systems. This is the best way to set things up beforehand. Is that something that you feel like you have infrastructure to help you guide your clients through change? A little bit. Would you show of hands of people who feel supported through that process by their employers or by the, yeah, a few, you do? Okay.
I might add, there is a complication, at least in the law firm setting, and the complication is that, you will not be surprised to learn, is that the law firms tend to be very hierarchical.
Sure.
Some firms more so than others, but changes tend to emanate from the top. And so people at the lower levels don't really have the opportunity where they identify grounds for making changes that could make their workplace more, don't always have the opportunity to work with decision makers in gaining the support needed in order to reach the point at which a process like yours could begin.
So maybe it's a matter of creating space for more diverse perspectives to be part of
Yeah.
the setup.
I'll just add to what Michael said there, and that's just, and we all probably know this, but attorneys are very adverse to risk. And that means a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's one of the biggest, challenges is I think the kind of legal and law environment in that, we're not out there kind of, iterating and trying things. There's this, process that you get to something and, the keynote speaker talked about it, like you have to go through this huge process and fail and keep moving, and that's not necessarily how things work traditionally in, law firms or, pride themselves on having done things, some way for, hundreds of years. So I think that's a huge kind of challenge and obstacle that we definitely face when trying to look at change.
and it's the same thing with government. Everybody talks about the challenges that they face by having to work with government attorneys. I know someone who refers to them as the no machines. Just like, no, you can't do that, right? Right now, there's an article that came out in the ABA Journal yesterday about these new laws to make government information open by default, kind of working on making processes open by default. And that's what 18F is a part of right now, but it's just really challenging, right? How can you convince people who have been trained to mitigate risk to enable that, right? Like it's hard. Yeah.
Do their Google exercise?
Yeah.
I think we're going to make you guys do a little bit of an exercise. We sort of talked about kind of challenges and obstacles, and I mean, again, it really all comes around to change again, and this whole, change management and being change agents, but how do we do that? And so, since we're at tables, this will work out well. So, if you don't have enough people at your table, you can go to another table. But we'd like you to take maybe 5 minutes and just talk about, if you have like a recent obstacle or something that you had in trying to bring about a change process in your work or in your organization. So we'd love to kind of have people just talk about it, kind of maybe report back and give some ideas, because it just kind of start thinking about it now that we've sort of, laid it out and talked about a little bit of some of the challenges that Vicki's seen and kind of the whole landscape. So I'm going to watch my timer. We'll give you about 5 minutes, and we'll let you know when we're about to come back.
Oh, I just do it. Ask for forgiveness?
Yeah.
There, that is that. Or just, well, and especially not from government. One of the things, whenever the judge finally decides to go, the other law, in 5 years. 5 years, like, I'm ready now.
Welcome back.
Exactly. For real change.
And I went, tell from her lab, it went beautifully and we had no issues. No, it's oh, no.
I just have to wait for them.
Yes. The only problem, yeah.
So like, there's a lot of schmoozing, right? And politics.
Electronic source. And clearly there were some beautiful childhoods and lunch scars.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Okay, the crash almost 2007, so almost 10 years later. And all the stuff happened in the economy. And hospitals stayed very until the last 2 years. I mean, the writing was on the wall, but nobody was doing it. Yeah, because you guys were acting on it. You were seeing what was going on in a lot of schools, just like made no plans, business as usual. I think that's yeah, I mean, how could it not? You know, what is that? But, so at some level, you do have to, I mean, I think saving money is we can do different with the same. And we're all just like, what kind of changes happen at
When are we not changing?
She tells us who's driving.
Who's driving?
When I click on feedback, is it like it?
Or is it like those walk buttons, you push it and nothing happens?
Yeah, actually, no, the feedback buttons are great. They go straight to the developers. We actually moved all the intermediate people. So I don't know if you know this, but in the past, when we were suggesting a change on Westlaw, that went through the resident attorneys who then spent a year gathering that feedback. And would put it together in a hierarchy of the most comments they got. And those to the developers who then.
So everybody has about 1 minute left, so finish up your conversations and then we'll see if we can get some ideas from everyone.
The code or the software or whatever it is that's driving Westlawn so nimble. All of those comments go straight to the developers, and then if it makes sense to them and it's easy, they'll just make a change like within weeks, months. So yes, use the button.
No.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes when you guys call me, I just log into Westlaw and use the button and say, I'm on the phone with a customer and this is what they're seeing and this is what they would like to see instead. Just straight out. Because I get to see it more than if I send it through other channels.
Well, and you could sort of describe our issue their terms, the lingo.
Yeah.
And knowing what you know about how it
Yes.
works better. Just sometimes it's those things like, why can't X be done? And it's like, and they do it. It's like, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, no, everything's going through change. I mean, they're writing new software all the time in terms of search technology, and, we talked a little bit about that, and making changes, and just trying to make things simpler. Our whole technology team is talking about cybersecurity and cognitive, searching and things of that nature. So, yeah, we're in the middle of huge changes. Now that's my Yes. There's no next, there's only Westlaw.
Oh, it's just nowadays.
Next, there's only Westlaw.
All right, I'm gonna call everybody back, hopefully you can hear me. Well, good, we have some good conversation, so I know you're gonna have stuff to report because you're talking. So, who has something to share from their conversation? I mean, anything that came out of it, kind of how you dealt with something, how you feel about it, thoughts that you had as you're going through. Don't make me call him. Mark, go ahead, Mark.
We discussed starting with a vision of where you want to accomplish, but be flexible to make decisions as you go along. Sequential decision making years ago, now called agile development, and periodically and regularly check in with all of your audience, all your potential stakeholders or customers, so that we're still on track every time you make any sort of decision.
Excellent, thank you. And actually, we'll talk a little bit about something about your audience, because we have someone we want to talk about there too. Who else has something they want to share from their group?
I can quote Susan.
She's the reporter for our team.
Susan said that if you said that your change was going to save money, then it would be easy to make that change.
Easier to get buy-in from the people above you.
Yeah.
You've got to sell the change somehow.
Yes.
However, it's going to speak to the stakeholders, whether it's money, usually that's a top one, but obviously it has to be palatable, right? Any other?
Should we try to get every table to present one? We've only got, how many? Seven tables total?
Yeah, we have to choose. Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah.
How about all the way in the back, the back table?
You thought you were.
Either one.
I can chime in, we talked about, it just got to be a bitch session.
Understandable.
Just obstacles, dealing with personnel changes and IT sort of doing something that they think is like the right thing, when you know it's the wrong thing, but you have to go along with them. And then, of course, they get hacked. And so, but you can't say, well, and then go to administration and say, well, give us back what you want. No, we don't want to hurt IT's feelings. So, being right and kind of being, in academia sometimes being right doesn't have much.
And it seems like there's,
What's that? Underserved.
it seems like probably increasingly, you tell me, because I don't know your industry as well as everybody here. I'm kind of in a different place. So it seems like there's probably increasing friction between librarians and IT departments. Is that true? Or because it seems like you're doing a lot.
Not always, but it can be true.
Yeah, because your
IT
work is
tends to
becoming more
look down on
technical.
librarians because we don't have.
No, we don't.
This.
You're
IT, your thing is homemade, yours is your code is professional, even though they're the ones who got hacked, right? And then they're, it must have been something you did.
We're gonna have to hear their perspective now.
Well, anyhow, the other thing is, the guy who was working on this, his husband was like a PhD at Google, and he looked over everything we did. So we had the back. Anyhow.
I want to pick up on something that Mark talked about reaching out to users, and Nikki and I have been kind of talking about this whole, design, in law and everything. And one of the things that came up in our conversation was, we very often, put out a product, make a change, do something, and then we monitor who's using, and we, usually look for, top users, and kind of, we might reach out to them to be the evangelist, to, keep getting other people involved. We may also ask them, what do you think, right? You tested this, what do you like, what don't you like, what can be fixed, and if it's something we're doing, obviously we have control over that. If it's another product, we can at least make suggestions or try to figure out how to solve their problems. But I think the harder part, it's a little easier with us because we have kind of closed groups of users, but how do you reach out, especially in some of the situations, Nikki's dealing with communities, how do you reach out and find the non-users and find out why they're not using, right? It's that whole, how do you know what you don't know, like how do you do that? And so I wanted to ask Nikki if she could sort of talk about that a little bit too from your experience.
Yeah, so it reminded me of a writing project that I'm working on right now, which is about something called Digital Front Door, a project that was started by Code for America in the city of Oakland. So Oakland wanted to redo their website, make it more responsive, make people be able to receive services better online through the website. And so they initially started with research looking at, well, who's using the website and how are they using it? What services get the most hits? What are people looking for? And then maybe we can start thinking about how to change those particular places. So they submitted a survey and they submitted it to, I don't remember, they put it out through different, it was an online survey, so it was limited in that respect, but they ended up getting 1,000 responses, which I thought was really great. They only expected like 400, so this is really, really wonderful. And then when they started looking at where those responses came from, they realized it was really like just particular neighborhoods. And so they kind of saw, okay, it's really not a success at all, it's a success in that they gained new information about where they had to seek out, more responses. So I think that, it's a really hard thing, right? How do you know what you don't know? It's a real challenge, but I think that you just have to continually be critical, right? Or always kind of be comparing or questioning what you might not have. And I don't know if that in your universe, maybe it's closed if your users are within a firm that you're working at, or maybe as you were saying, Holly, you kind of can see who's using something or who isn't because you have more of a controlled group of people. But that's certainly a challenge, and I think in tech, that's something that people really do need to be vigilant. People are quick to be really excited about how something's doing something. I think that's a real challenge that people have to think about.
Yep, Jen.
Well, I think that one of the current things I see as a trend in maybe different aspects of my life, everything is meant to be a marketing piece now, and so more and more everything useful gets pushed really far down and you can't ever find it, or just isn't supposed to be there because it doesn't convey the marketing information. So the idea that you might have something out there that is useful to a certain population, it's discounted because it's not, it doesn't have the brand logo. And I think it's a struggle I see more and more, and I think it turns people away from actually using services.
Do you have an example in mind?
I've seen, with our campus branding initiative and all of their marketing pieces, to the conveying that we serve not just the external population of prospective people coming in, but an internal client base, or that we use something interactively. It doesn't fit the design parameter to put it where it would be most useful, and then it falls into the one click too many. I always run into that, after about the third click, I'm not gonna dig anymore. It's just too many layers in. But the structure that has been built for this, to convey this larger message, causes it to be 5 layers down. And then it uses it, then everybody stops using it.
And that's sounds kind
You
of
don't know
like,
where to find it.
right, it sounds kind of like a situation where the design is sort of trumping the data, right? I think really what we hope, and I think what, Nikki works on and other people work on is, design and data, right? It's that kind of intersection, the best of both worlds, and sometimes, obviously in certain situations, it's not kind of hitting that mark. Watching our time, and I know we're close to the end, so I want to, I think Nikki and I are maybe going to share a couple of just examples, because I know we wanted to get into some of these, and I know we won't get into all of them, so maybe we can even share some on the listserv or do something afterwards too, but we can talk about a couple. One of the reasons why, I read the article about the ABA Legal Rebels, and that's how I found out about Nikki, but, and she also spoke at the Code for America Summit with Margaret Hagan, who's at Stanford Law School at the Legal Design Lab, and she's another one I would definitely tell you guys to kind of take a look at. They're working on developing user-friendly models of legal services and training law students in human-centered legal design. So they're going to be putting out these students who are kind of really interested in this. So, I think that speaks a lot to some of the things we deal with or some of the products we're seeing, with like Ravel Law, Lex Machina, other products that are really kind of, again, kind of trying to put this design and legal together to put more information out there. And I know there's some that Nikki wanted to kind of share about too that maybe aren't in the legal realm, but I think kind of get your creative juices flowing to thinking about kind of what's possible.
Yeah, except that I don't know how to get online here. I'm a Mac person. I can't figure it out. Does anybody know how to access the internet on this computer?
There should be Wi-Fi access.
Oh, I just don't even know how to get to the window.
She just needs a window.
Yeah, a window.
Chrome, Internet Explorer.
While we're-
It's really embarrassing. Anyway,
Okay.
open Windows. Okay, Windows Explorer. Yeah. Well.
While we're getting there, I can share a couple of, I can't bring them up on the internet, but I can share a couple of things that are going on too. They're actually both out of Arizona, but I think they're sort of interesting that I heard about a while back. In Pima County, the Superior Court, Mojave County is huge because of the Grand Canyon. And so the north side has to drive to the south side to go to the court. And it's not a straight shot, right? So this is like a big deal to have to go to the court and do something. And so one of the things they did was they set up what they call a North Canyon kiosk, where they set it up at the DMV, right? Everybody knows where the DMV is because you've got to go there at some point in your life. And they could go to the kiosk, they could file papers, speak with court clerks and pay fines. And so, again, I think this, it seems almost like totally natural. Like, of course we would have set up a kiosk, but there wasn't one for quite some time. And one of the other projects that I remember that the person who spoke about this talked about was another interesting combination of people. They took students, the University of Arizona English majors and University of Arizona law students, and they came together and they put together a project they called Simplify Lex, so the nice Latin term, and it also kind of speaks to what they were doing. But they created these kind of easy work forms around common court forms and easy to understand explanations. I mean, again, like, shouldn't we have thought that, maybe connect the English majors with the law students and come up with this solution that helps people, file forms and understand what to do, but, took kind of a long way to get there. So it's kind of interesting. So I think you have some things you want to share too.
Oh, yeah, no, so one project that I'm just going to show you quickly is for food stamps in California. It's a project that some folks at Code for America are working on, and I've been doing some research for. But just to show you, if you want to apply online for food stamps right now in California, this is what the site looks like. It's pretty busy, but you can, man, not a PC person, is terrible at this computer. But so I guess online services, okay, so to create an account, what if I go back? It's pretty cumbersome. Apply for benefits, get started. Has a lot of language that's kind of a little bit like, this is what you have to do, you have to create an account, I think there are things on the next pages that ask about like your social security number that can be kind of like intimidating for people who don't have one. So anyway, you kind of get the sense that it's kind of clunky, and folks that I'm working with just created this, so it's different, right? There's less text. It tells you 10 minutes, you can take care of this. The idea is that it's more friendly and inviting for people. Apply now, so it's pretty different. People, it just kind of asks the questions. Are there any like changes in the language that you kind of note, aside from it even being shorter? It's hopefully just kind of asking information without kind of stating law. It's kind of more driven by accomplishing something that the user wants to do rather than presenting information to protect the agency from doing something wrong. So that's just kind of a quick example I wanted to show quickly. Be happy to
Is
talk.
that live?
It's, a few counties are using it. Yeah, a few counties, but it's not statewide yet. Yeah. There are only 3 people working on it, 1 developer. So it's kind of, they're kind of underwater, yeah.
I mean, I know we're running out of our time, so I want to be respectful of that, but I think this is so interesting, and again, you're looking at things that are maybe tangentially related to our world, some that probably aren't even at all. But I think overall, I think it's a good kind of call to action and a reminder to all of us about kind of how to look at things and to make sure we're kind of looking at the human-centered design theory and keeping that in mind when we're developing things in our libraries or thinking about other things that we're going to take in. And I would encourage you all to kind of check out. I think there's some great projects on 18F that look really interesting with a lot of the government agencies. Again, the Legal Design Lab at Stanford and various other projects. So I want to see if Nikki has anything else to say in closing here, but I want to thank her very much for coming to talk to us today.
No, thank you for having me. It's really wonderful.